Sarah stood on the bustling sidewalk of the city, the sun casting a warm glow on the sea of faces around her. She was chatting with her friends, her laughter ringing out loud and bright. As they made their way towards a trendy café, she caught sight of a figure sitting on a bench nearby. It was a guy she had seen a few times before, usually alone, absorbed in his thoughts. Today, however, her gaze zeroed in on his shoes. They were old and battered, frayed at the edges, and completely out of style. Sarah scoffed, her voice dripping with mockery. Her friends burst into laughter, and Sarah's laughter chimed louder than the rest. She felt a rush of satisfaction, a little thrill at pointing out someone else's flaws. It made her feel better about herself, as if she was somehow above him, standing on higher ground. Little did she know, those old shoes held a story that would soon unfold before her eyes. The guy, his name was Josh, just glanced up and shrugged off her comment, a faint smile hidden behind a look of indifference. He had gotten used to the stares and whispers. The worn-out sneakers were his choice, comfort over style. They reminded him of simpler times when he didn't have to struggle so much. Life hadn't been easy for Josh, and while he preferred to keep things low-key, there was more to him than met the eye. As Sarah continued her mockery, the world around her faded. The sound of laughter dulled, and all she could focus on was this one guy on the bench. She tapped her friend, pointing. She said, her voice a bit louder than intended. Just then, something unexpected caught her eye. A well-dressed man, impeccably tailored suit and all, approached Josh. He had a silver key glinting in his hand, and the sight of it sent a ripple of curiosity through Sarah. She thought, her mocking tone forgotten for a moment. The well-dressed man smiled as he handed the silver key to Josh, who accepted it quietly. A change swept across Josh's face, from indifference to something deeper, perhaps hope. Sarah muttered, her brow furrowing. Her friend stood by her, confused by the sudden change in her demeanor. Josh turned the key over in his hand, eyes sparkling. The well-dressed man leaned in, speaking softly. From their gestures, it was clear this wasn't just a casual exchange. There was weight in the mystery of that key, something important that made her feel uneasy. Maybe I should go ask him what's up, Sarah said, half to herself and half to her friends. Something pulled at her. This wasn't just about shoes anymore. As she approached Josh, her confidence wavered slightly. The laughter of a few moments ago felt distant, and instead she felt a strange sense of guilt mixed with curiosity. "Hey there," she started, forcing a smile. Josh looked up, surprise flashing in his eyes. "Thanks," he replied, his voice steady but cautious. She asked, her curiosity fighting against her earlier attitude. He glanced back at the well-dressed man who was now walking away, then looked back at her. The words hung in the air, electrifying the moment. There was a depth to his simplicity that struck her. Sarah found herself smiling, but this time it felt different. "You're like serious," Josh hesitated. "A place where I can start fresh, an old house my family used to own." Sarah's heart raced. It was the kind of dream she had, the kind that seemed so distant it was almost out of reach. "Wow," was all she could muster. Josh continued, "I've had a rough time, you know. I lost my job and didn't know where to turn, but this." In a split second, Sarah's world tilted. The balance shifted. She had come close to mocking this guy for his shoes, but in that moment she saw someone who was fighting for something much bigger. Maybe we all wear our struggles in different ways. She blurted out before thinking. She was surprised by her own audacity, but the thought of helping him turned on a light in her heart. His expression softened. "You really want to? Sounds like an adventure," she said, her voice steadier now. "I'm game." Josh searched her eyes, trying to gauge her sincerity. It was unlike him to trust easily, but her enthusiasm was genuine. "All right." As they walked together toward the old house, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The laughter of her friends faded behind them, replaced by the quiet hum of their footsteps. It became clear that Josh was more than just a guy with old shoes. He was a person filled with hopes and dreams, just like anyone else. Once they arrived at the house, its neglected facade held a touch of magic despite the peeling paint and cracked windows. It sat quietly, almost waiting for a new beginning. Josh pulled the key from his pocket, heart racing. He approached the door, the weight of the moment pressing down. "Here goes nothing," he murmured and slid the key into the lock, a rumble of anticipation echoing in the air. The lock clicked open and he pushed the door ajar. The hinges creaked, a sound reminiscent of old memories stirring awake. As they stepped inside, sunlight poured into the room through windows covered in dust. Both Sarah and Josh were hit by the scent of age and history, something profound lingering in the air. "Wow," she whispered, looking around. He smiled, an unexpected warmth spreading. Together they wandered through the house, ideas flooding their minds. With each room they explored, Sarah began to see the charm, the history that had been hidden away behind walls covered in shadows. They laughed as they imagined the renovations they could do, dreaming of the vibrant life the house once had. As time passed, Sarah and Josh worked tirelessly, the first of many days spent together in this old house. They painted, repaired, and designed with mess and laughter sprinkled throughout. Sarah found herself not just helping him, but growing alongside him, learning about determination and resilience. Josh's story deepened with every brushstroke. He shared tales of his family, of memories woven into the house. It became more than just a project, it became a healing ground. For Sarah, it was a lesson in empathy, a reminder that everyone has battles hidden beneath the surface. With every sunset they spent together, Sarah started to see Josh differently. The old shoes weren't a sign of failure, they were badges of experience. They spoke of perseverance, reminding her that life wasn't just about appearances. One day, while they were working on the garden, he stopped and turned to her. She chuckled lightly, brushing her hair back. He asked, his curiosity genuine, "I guess I realized how wrong I was. There's so much more to people than what we see." "I'm thankful I got to know you," she said with a smile that lit up her face. Josh nodded, sensing the shift in their dynamic. He felt lighter, free from the invisible weight that had held him back for too long. Their friendship blossomed into something deeper, built on the solid foundation of understanding and kindness. With each passing day, they transformed the house together into a beautiful home. Instead of whispering laughter and mockery, the walls felt alive with their shared experiences. As they finally stood together in the heart of the house, having transformed it into a space brimming with warmth and love, Sarah realized something crucial. It wasn't about shoes, keys, or appearances. It was about the stories we carry, the connection we forge, and the unexpected journeys we take with those we might overlook. And in that moment, Sarah saw not just a guy who owned old shoes, but a man with strength, resilience, and a transformative key who had opened her heart. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon when Sarah spotted him sitting on a weathered bench in the park. There he was, a young man lost in thought, his eyes distant. Sarah blurted out, her voice cutting through the gentle hum of the park. It was a moment that felt almost hypnotic. Her friends turned to see what she was pointing at. Laughter bubbled up among them, the kind that felt light and carefree, as if they shared a secret. One of her friends chimed in, the laughter intensifying. Sarah's chuckles mixed with theirs, the sound resonating through the warm air. For a fleeting moment, she felt powerful, standing taller as she mocked someone who was unknowingly beneath her gaze. But the young man, his name was Chris, just offered a faint smile and continued to stare ahead, seemingly unfazed. He had learned to brush off the stares and giggles. Those shoes had been with him through thick and thin, a talisman of a life filled with struggles and dreams tempered by reality. That day, the air was thick with a sense of anticipation, unspoken stories swirling around them. Sarah, swept up in her momentary triumph, didn't sense that her laughter would soon take a different shape altogether. As Chris sat there, his mind wandered. Just hours before, he had received a phone call that would change everything. A well-dressed man had reached out, offering him a chance he never thought possible. In his pocket lay a silver key, an object that held the promise of something new, something better. Just then the man appeared, arriving with an air of confidence, and approached Chris with a genuine smile. The laughter around Sarah dimmed, curiosity taking its place as she watched the man extend his hand, presenting the key to Chris. The sight startled her, her laughter dying in her throat. Her heart raced as she tried to wrap her mind around what was unfolding. She thought, cocking her head to the side. The man leaned closer, speaking softly, but Sarah couldn't make out the words. Chris took the key hesitantly, his expression transforming from confusion to sheer joy in a heartbeat. This humble young man, wearing old shoes, was receiving something far greater than monetary value. He was getting a chance, a glimmer of hope. "Wait a minute," Sarah whispered to her friends, her voice laden with intrigue. The laughter faded into an insistent whisper of curiosity. Sarah's attention was captured entirely. The key sparkled in Chris's palm, each glimmer resonating with the dreams he had nearly lost grasp of. With a sense of urgency, Sarah approached Chris and the man. She asked, this time without the veil of mockery that had once cloaked her words. Both men turned to her. Chris looked surprised at her sudden shift in tone, while the well-dressed man tilted his head slightly, as if assessing her. "It opens a new beginning," Chris replied, his voice steady despite the chaotic whirlwind of emotions within him. She echoed, her arrogance giving way to genuine curiosity. There was something magnetic about the way he spoke, something that drew her in. "It's an old house," he explained, looking back at the man, "one my family used to own. I thought it was lost forever." The moment hung in the air, thick with possibility. Sarah's heart thumped loudly in her chest as Chris continued. "They're letting me renovate it, turn it into a community center. I want to help others like me. For the first time, the old shoes faded into insignificance. They were no longer a punchline, they were a piece of a much larger story. Here was a man with dreams, aspirations, and an unwavering resolve to change his world, regardless of how the rest of society perceived him. Sarah felt something shift within her. The words slipped out before she could stop them. It was a spark of connection, a feeling of wanting to be part of something meaningful. Chris looked taken aback, his eyes widening in surprise. "You?" "Yeah," she responded, a newfound confidence stirring inside her. "I've seen what it's like to have things, but I've never built something meaningful from scratch." And just like that, the laughter that had once echoed across the park transformed into a bond unspoken. The well-dressed man nodded, sensing something powerful had shifted between the two. "Then let's make it happen," he said, clasping a hand on Chris's shoulder before walking away, leaving them with the weight of what lay ahead. Over the following weeks, Sarah and Chris met regularly. The months melted away like snow under the fierce sun. They spent days at the old house, its peeling walls whispering remnants of stories untold. Sarah learned to appreciate every splintered floorboard, every broken window, the ghosts of the past shaping their vision for tomorrow. With each passing day, their friendship blossomed. Together, they scheduled volunteer days, which turned into community events, gathering people who had long felt disconnected. They shared laughter and struggles, sinking into the rhythm of hard work, sweat, and an underlying sense of purpose. At night, after the sun dipped below the horizon, they often found themselves cleaning up under the stars, looking up at constellations that sparkled like the future they desired. Sarah marveled at how a once mocking comet had led her here, to a place of healing and growth. One evening, as they sat together on the steps of the house, Sarah turned to Chris, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I can't believe I ever thought those shoes were a joke." Chris chuckled softly. "I guess they are. They've seen everything, the tears, the laughter, the struggle." A pause hung in the air, a moment pregnant with understanding. Sarah's heart swelled with admiration, not just for Chris, but for the connection they had formed. "You've taught me so much about resilience." He nodded, the respect in his eyes making her feel seen. But the road wasn't always easy. There were days of doubt, moments when life threw challenges their way, leaving them both questioning the future. One rainy afternoon, when they had just finished painting, Sarah found herself staring at the dark clouds overhead. She asked, her voice tinged with worry. Chris paused, wiping his brow. "Every big journey starts with the first step. We've taken so many already." His words laid a balm over her doubts. "You're right," she said, a flicker of determination igniting within her. "It's just sometimes I worry. I saw those shoes and I thought I knew you." Chris turned, a look of understanding washing over him. "None of us are just our appearances. We all have stories we carry." As the days turned into months, the house transformed. Vibrant colors bounced off the walls, laughter echoed from within, and life bloomed around them. It was no longer just an old structure. It was becoming a beacon for hope, a testament to the impact two unlikely friends could have together. Finally, the day of the grand opening arrived, the community hungry to see what they had built. Sarah stood at the entrance, her heart racing. She caught a glimpse of Chris, who wore a smile that radiated joy. The old shoes were still on his feet, a reminder of all that had come before. She asked, a flutter of nervous anticipation dancing in her stomach. He nodded, confidence woven through his gaze. As the community gathered, people began trickling in, their faces filled with excitement. Sarah couldn't help but take a moment to breathe it all in. It was more than just a building. It was a celebration of change, of second chances. People joined together, rekindling friendships, sharing laughter, and embracing a new sense of belonging. Sarah watched as Chris engaged with everyone, his warm spirit drawing people in like a magnet. In that moment, she felt proud, not just of the house but of him, the boy with old shoes who had transformed into a man full of dreams. And as the sun set, filling the sky with hues of orange and violet, Sarah realized a profound truth. Sometimes the most beautiful stories start with moments of misunderstanding. Those old shoes had unlocked more than just a door. They had opened the way to understanding, kindness, and an incredible connection forged through shared purpose. The laughter and chatter filled the air like a symphony, a testament to the journeys they had taken together. In this place, beneath the bright stars above, Sarah knew that laughter and dreams could coexist, and every step, whether in old shoes or new, led to something truly remarkable. It all began with laughter echoing across the crowded plaza. Sarah was out with her friends, the sun shining brightly, laughter spilling effortlessly between them. But suddenly, her laughter caught on a sneer. Her gaze landed on a young man sitting alone on a bench. She exclaimed, her tone sharper than she intended. Her friends glanced over, and within seconds they erupted into a chorus of giggles. That moment hung in the air, a split second where judgment fluttered just about, untethered and explosive. Sarah felt a sense of power, like she was on solid ground, while the young man, oblivious, sat still like a paperweight, pinned under her gaze. Her laughter rang out, bringing her spirits even higher. But she didn't see the other side of that coin. The young man's name was Alex. He was a dreamer in disguise. Behind those beaten shoes, there was a heart yearning for possibilities, a mind weaving hopes into reality. Alex was no stranger to hard times. Those shoes were a testament to his journey, each scuff a chapter of resilience. As she continued to poke fun, her friends joined in, riding the wave of amusement that felt innocent at first. Yet the young man remained unmoved, focused on something far beyond the confines of their laughter. A moment later, though, everything shifted. An older gentleman in a tailored suit approached Alex. Their reactions shifted, surprise rippling through the crowd. The man pulled out a shimmering silver key, its edges glimmering in the midday sun. Time slowed. Suddenly, the laughter subsided, replaced by the thick uncertainty that filled the air. Sarah murmured, her confidence wavering. Alex looked up, emotions swirling like a tempest in his eyes. He reached out, taking the key with a mixture of disbelief and joy. The moment felt monumental, as if the entire plaza was holding its breath, waiting for the next act in a drama that had begun unnoticed. The gentleman leaned closer, speaking softly, but Sarah couldn't catch the words. What could they be discussing? The spark of curiosity ignited a flame within her, the initial thrill of mockery dissolving into something more profound. She stepped closer, her heart racing as she tried to gather the pieces of this unexpected puzzle. When the older man finished speaking, he offered Alex a smile and walked away, leaving the silver key in his hand. Sarah asked, her voice no longer laced with ridicule. Instead, it trembled with genuine curiosity. "He said this key opens the door to my family's old warehouse," Alex explained, his voice steadied by a sense of new beginnings. It was in the family for decades, but it was lost in foreclosure. The revelation crashed over Sarah like a tidal wave. The old shoes, once the object of her scorn, were now mere markers of resilience. The key clutched in Alex's palm held promise a chance to reclaim what he believed lost. "Wait," Sarah interjected, the realization dawning upon her. Alex nodded, eyes lighting up with hope. Yes, in that moment Sarah felt the weight of her earlier judgment pressing down on her, an uncomfortable burden she no longer wanted to carry. The words spilled out, surprising even herself. The chance to contribute to something meaningful overshadowed her earlier pettiness, his brows furrowed in surprise. "Yeah, I mean, I could help with the planning, organizing events, anything to get it off the ground," she insisted, her sincerity pouring forth. They exchanged glances, and Sarah sensed this was the first step towards something transformative. Alex looked at her as if she were a breath of fresh air, bringing with her the promise of new beginnings. In the weeks that followed, Sarah and Alex embarked on a journey together. Weekends turned into days spent poring over blueprints, planning how to restore the old warehouse. The facade, once disheveled, began to take on a new life. They scrubbed away years of neglect, laughter ringing out, mingling with the scent of fresh paint and sawdust. With every stroke of the brush, Sarah discovered more about herself than she had ever anticipated. In the echoes of their work, she felt the shackles of her previous judgments start to loosen. She had once defined a person by their appearance, but now she saw the heart beneath. Months cruised by, bringing with them a whirlwind of transformation as the warehouse began to come alive. Sarah and Alex worked tirelessly, the sense of purpose gluing them together through the chaos of renovation. Sarah marveled at his determination, the way he poured his heart into every detail. After a long day of work, they often sat under the stars, exhausted but filled with fulfillment. "This is going to make a real difference," she said one night, gazing at the dulcet glow of the moon. Alex nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It's more than that, you know. It's my chance to create something better for myself too. I want to show people that we can rise from our past." The transformation of the warehouse became their sanctuary, a canvas splashed with vibrant colors and hope. Each day, more of the community began to notice the changes, and soon word spread about what they were building. Just when it felt like they were making waves, life tossed a few rocks their way. A sudden storm hit, damaging part of the roof they had just finished. Water poured in, leaving a trail of destruction that threatened to set them back. Sarah stood there, puddles collecting around her feet, fear creeping into her heart. She whispered, her confidence faltering. Alex knelt, examining the damage. "We fix it," he said, determination in his gaze. Her heart squeezed as she watched him rise up, unyielding against the storm. In his eyes was the fire of perseverance, a reminder that when life throws obstacles, it's our choice to rise. The next day they rallied the community, a small army ready to lend a hand. Neighbors showed up with tools, laughter mingling with the air heavy after the rain. Feelings of togetherness surrounded them like a warm embrace as they rebuilt the parts taken by the storm, brick by brick, heartbeat by heartbeat. It wasn't easy. There were moments when Sarah felt fatigue wash over her, when doubts bubbled up and threatened to steal her resolve. She lamented to Alex one evening, fatigue evident in her voice. "Every drop counts," he said softly, "just like those shoes that have carried me through thick and thin." Those words became an anchor in her mind. She realized that her journey with Alex mirrored the old shoes he wore. Despite their battered appearance, they were symbols of strength, serving as a reminder that imperfections could embody beauty and resilience. Finally, the grand reopening day arrived. The community poured in, filling the space with laughter, warmth, and a sense of belonging. The air buzzed with the aroma of fresh-baked goods, colorful banners fluttering overhead, and the smiling faces of everyone who had come to support them. As Sarah looked over the crowd and saw people greeting each other, she felt an overwhelming sense of pride. In that moment, she understood the true power of community, the strength that comes from coming together, from building something that goes beyond ourselves. She exclaimed to Alex, the joy in her voice unmistakable. He smiled back, eyes shining. "This isn't just mine." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the warehouse, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on their journey. It started with a snide remark, a moment of judgment that had cracked open a beautiful story, one filled with layers of transformation, resilience, and connection. As the laughter echoed around them, she felt the weight lift from her heart. She understood in that searing vulnerability how easily we can misjudge one another, and how powerful it could be to step beyond those judgments, to embrace each other's stories instead. In the dim lights of the warehouse, as the festivities continued, Sarah took a backward glance at Alex. He He still wore those old shoes, scuffed, battered, but now they symbolized much more than just his past. They were a testament to their journey together. They had turned an old place into something new, something that would carry dreams forward, where everyone could find a sense of hope. And in that moment, Sarah knew their friendship was the key to unlocking not just doors, but hearts. It was an experience she would never forget, a lesson interwoven in their shared history, capturing the beauty of compassion that knows no bounds. It was just another ordinary morning in the busy city, but everything changed when Sarah spotted him, a young man sitting alone on a bench. The sunlight glimmered, revealing the scuffed and worn-out sneakers on his feet. "Wow, check out his shoes," she laughed, drawing the attention of her friends. A chorus of giggles erupted around her, the light-hearted teasing spilling effortlessly into the air. The man on the bench, his name was Lucas, glanced up. He smiled faintly, but his eyes held a world of quiet sorrow, something Sarah couldn't see from where she stood. To her, he was just a target for amusement. The worn shoes symbolized everything she believed was wrong with society, a glaring indication of failure, or so she thought. But Lucas wore those shoes with a stubborn pride. Each scuff and tear told a story filled with struggle, perseverance, and dreams yet unrealized. As Sarah continued to poke fun, Lucas turned his attention back to his phone, scrolling absent-mindedly. He had learned to ignore mockery, to let it wash over him like water off a duck's back. A tight-knit circle of comfort filled his mind instead, a vision of what could be unfurling behind those old sneakers. But then something remarkable happened. An older gentleman, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, approached Lucas with a purpose, his demeanor radiating authority. Sarah watched, her laughter caught in her throat as the man produced a glimmering silver key from his pocket, the sun reflecting off its polished surface like a beacon of hope. She whispered to her friends, disbelief creeping in. Her attention was pulled sharply to Lucas as the man handed the key to him with a warm smile. Lucas's face shifted from indifference to pure astonishment, his eyes shining with excitement. "This," Lucas stammered, his voice on the edge of disbelief. The man nodded. "Yes, it opens the door to your family's old bookstore." Time froze. The surrounding noise faded into the background as Sarah struggled to process the weight of this moment. What did this mean for him? Thoughts swirled in her mind. The old shoes weren't just a sign of neglect. They were an embodiment of resilience, a symbol of Lucas's journey toward reclaiming his family's legacy. Sarah whispered, stepping forward, drawn by an invisible force. Lucas turned to her, his expression shifting into one of cautious hope. "Yes, it was closed for years after my family lost it." A wave of guilt washed over Sarah, the laughter of moments ago now feeling utterly misplaced. The words tumbled from her mouth, surprising even herself. The initial thrill of mocking him had vanished, replaced by a curiosity that illuminated a desire to support him. Lucas's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Of course, I mean, a bookstore sounds amazing. I know a bit about organizing events and getting people interested." Sarah replied, feeling an unexpected thrill. The uncertainty in Lucas's eyes mixed with a flicker of gratitude. "All right, let's do this together," he said, taking a step forward. The weeks that followed changed the trajectory of their lives. Sarah found herself swept up in the exhilarating whirlwind of renovation and planning. The bookstore took shape like a phoenix rising from the ashes. With every hammer strike, every brushstroke, they created something magical. As the dust settled and chaos turned into order, Sarah learned more about Lucas and his story. He shared everything: the laughter, the heartbreak, and the dreams that propelled him forward. He opened up about the days he sat alone, dreaming of bringing the bookstore back, where stories could flourish and bring hope to others like him. "Every old shoe carries a story," Lucas said one day, lifting the beat-up sneakers as evidence. "These have seen my journey." Something softened in Sarah's heart. Her childhood had always been cushiony, shielded from the harsh realities of life. As she listened to Lucas, she began to understand that growth often comes from struggle, that each person carries battles beneath their surface. One afternoon, as they stood in the bookstore covered in splashes of paint, Sarah found herself feeling proud. "This is going to be incredible," she said, glancing around the brightening space filled with potential. "You know, I thought you'd just laugh at me after today in the park," Lucas confessed, a hint of vulnerability coloring his words. "Honestly, I would have before." She stumbled over her words, her mind racing with awareness. Time flew and the bookstore transformed. Broken shelves rearranged into vibrant displays, walls adorned with art, and cozy nooks began to take shape. They held events, inviting the community to contribute and participate. What started as a humble effort blossomed into a love-filled hub of creativity. But just as hope surged forward, setbacks surprised them around each corner. One evening they discovered mold in the basement, threatening all their hard work. Sarah felt the weight of despair settle heavily on her chest as they stood staring into the dark, damp space. She whispered, her voice cracking. Lucas stepped closer, exuding a quiet strength. "Every challenge brings a lesson. We can't give up now." His passion shone through, igniting a flicker of determination in Sarah's heart. With renewed energy, they reached out to the community again. People rallied around them, helping to clean and remediate the space. Laughter and camaraderie echoed as hands joined in the labor of love. It felt like they were weaving together a tapestry made of stories, a blend of struggles and dreams interlaced with determination. Finally, after months of hard work, the grand opening day arrived. The air buzzed with excitement as the community gathered around the newly revitalized bookstore. Sarah could hardly contain her joy. The old place transformed into a vibrant space that felt alive. As people streamed in, Lucas stood beside her, the silver key dangling from his neck, a reminder of everything that had led them here. He exclaimed, overwhelmed with happiness. From the cozy corners where children nestled with their favorite books to workshops buzzing with creativity, the bookstore flourished. The hum of conversations filled the air, and the clatter of coffee cups created a warm atmosphere of connection. She caught a glimpse of Lucas chatting animatedly to a group of young adults, and a swell of pride coursed through her. In that moment, she understood that the bonds they formed went far beyond their initial encounter. They had become co-authors of a new story, one filled with resilience, hope, and immeasurable friendship. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and violet, Sarah felt an overwhelming rush of gratitude. She gazed at Lucas, who stood surrounded by friends, laughter spilling from him like sunshine. He turned to her, a knowing smile playing on his lips. It opened hearts. Sarah nodded, the weight of his words settling in her heart. The journey had transformed her, shedding her old views like a snake shedding its skin. With Lucas beside her, she learned that kindness and understanding could rewrite narratives, helping everyone become a little more whole. The bookstore stood as a testament to that journey, a beautiful confluence of dreams and possibilities. It was more than just a building. It was a living, breathing entity, nourished by stories, laughter, and love. And as the last of the day melted into night, Sarah stood alongside Lucas, the boy in old shoes who held a silver key, realizing how turning a moment of mockery into one of connection had changed everything. In that remarkable space, everything seemed tangible, a reminder that every step, whether in old shoes or new, can lead to something extraordinary. It happened on an otherwise typical Tuesday afternoon when Sarah first spotted him, a young man sitting alone on a faded park bench, absorbed in his own world, but what caught her attention were his shoes. "Wow, look at those," she laughed, nudging her friends, her voice ringing loud in the air. Her friends turned, their eyes wide, and soon the air was filled with laughter. "Seriously," one of her friends chimed in, echoing her sentiment. The laughter bounced around the park, wrapping around Sarah like a warm blanket. But the young man, whose name was Jake, merely glanced up from his phone, a fleeting smile gracing his lips before he turned back to his screen. He had grown accustomed to the laughter, the stares. Those shoes were his armor, a source of stories he carried quietly. Each scuff and dent told a tale of late-night adventures, heartaches, and dreams that felt just out of reach. Jake wore those shoes not for style, but for comfort, a representation of his journey, one filled with struggles that few could see through the facade of a casual smile. As Sarah and her friends continued to mock him, the world around Jake faded away. His mind was elsewhere, swimming in thoughts about his own future, about pursuing a passion for music that often felt like a distant flicker amid life's noise. Suddenly, everything shifted. Elegantly dressed man approached, exuding confidence with an air of importance. Jake's heart raced as he recognized the man's face. John, the owner of a local theater known for discovering fresh talent. John approached him with purpose, and the laughter from Sarah and her friends died out, replaced by a thick silence that hung in the air. Jake glanced up, confusion clouding his features. "I think this is yours," John said, pulling out a shiny silver key that glinted in the sunlight. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The laughter vanished, replaced by an urgency to know what was happening. "What?" Jake asked, both bewildered and intrigued. "It's for the old music venue downtown," John explained, his voice steady and serious. Jake's eyes widened. "Absolutely, I've seen your talent. You deserve this chance," John replied, handing the key over gently. In that moment, everything changed. Sarah watched as a wave of happiness washed over Jake, transforming his expression. The silver key was a symbol of a new beginning, a chance to reclaim dreams that had long been set aside. Sarah breathed, her earlier confidence evaporating. A weight settled in her chest as she approached Jake, curiosity rippling through her. "Yes," Jake said, barely able to contain his excitement. "I can finally perform, create a space for others like me." For the first time, Sarah felt an impact of reality upon her heart. Those old shoes weren't just the subject of mockery, they were markers of a journey filled with struggle and passion. Her laughter from moments ago felt heavy with regret. The question sprang forth before she could stop herself. Jake looked surprised but grateful. "Really? Of course, I mean, this is incredible." Jake nodded slowly, his eyes widening with hope. "Okay," and so began their journey together, a path neither of them could have imagined. In the weeks that followed, they worked side by side, transforming the dilapidated venue into something vibrant and alive. The energy between them shifted as old walls were painted, floors cleaned, and new dreams began to fill the space. Jake was constantly amazed at Sarah's enthusiasm. She had a natural talent for communication and creativity, spreading the word to local artists and musicians who would help breathe life into the venue. Laughter and music began to fill the air, intertwining like threads of a beautiful tapestry. As they worked, Sarah learned more about Jake and his dreams. He opened up about the struggles that shaped him losing his parents, living in a cramped apartment, and how music had always been his escape. Each story he shared painted a picture of resilience and determination. "I never thought I'd get this opportunity," Jake said one afternoon, wiping sweat from his brow. "Those old shoes, they remind me of all the times I wanted to give up." Sarah listened, realizing how much she had underestimated him. The old shoes were symbols of strength, not weakness. They were worn like a badge of honor, showcasing a story that spoke volumes about perseverance. As months passed, the venue transformed from a dusty shell into a vibrant hub of creativity. They invited local musicians to perform, artists to display their work, and students seeking a place to grow. It became a sanctuary for those longing to express themselves. But just when everything seemed to be going perfectly, life threw them a curveball. One stormy night, heavy rains flooded the venue, threatening to ruin everything they'd worked for. As they stood staring at the damage, panic coursing through Sarah's veins, doubt crept into her mind. She whispered, fearing the worst. Jake turned to her, determination clear in his eyes. "We can fix it. We've come too far to turn back now." With renewed purpose, they reached out to the community for help. Word spread quickly, and soon their friends, local musicians, and even strangers arrived with tools and supplies. It turned into a massive cleanup effort, a testament to how far they had come together. Someone shouted from the back, and Sarah's heart swelled as she saw people working side by side, laughter mingling with the sounds of hammers and brushes. The weight of fear began to lift, replaced by a collective spirit of resilience. In the chaos of repairs, Sarah felt a surge of faith in their vision. This venue wasn't just built on their efforts, it was nurtured by a community that believed in the power of dreams and creativity. Finally, after countless late nights and tireless days, the venue reopened with a celebration that felt electric. The crowd buzzed with excitement, buzzing with laughter as local talent took the stage. Music poured out into the streets, and the air was thick with joy and anticipation. As Jake stepped onto the stage, clutching his guitar, Sarah felt a swell of pride. He looked right, standing in front of the crowd, ready to share his passion with the world. The anticipation thickened the air as he strummed the first chords, and the audience went silent, captivated. The moment was magical. Jake's music flowed through the crowd, pulling them in, telling stories of struggle, hopes, and dreams fulfilled. Sarah's heart raced. She watched as he poured every ounce of himself into those songs. When he finished, the audience erupted into applause, cheers echoing against the walls of the venue. Tears of joy streamed down Sarah's face as she realized how far they had come from a chance encounter in the park to this moment of triumph. "Thank you for believing in me," Jake said, his voice thick with emotion as he looked at Sarah. "No, you did this," she smiled back, gratitude flooding her heart. As they celebrated that night, surrounded by laughter and new friendships, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Everything had changed. No longer was she the girl who mocked someone's shoes. She became part of a beautiful story woven from resilience, empathy, and connection. Standing side by side with Jake, she felt a profound sense of purpose. The venue had evolved into a sanctuary for dreamers, a place of healing where every person who walked through its doors was met with respect and encouragement. Through their collaboration, they had created something far greater than either had anticipated. And all of its every success, every setback had been worth it. In the end, it wasn't just about the key, the venue, or even the music. It was about the bonds they forged, the lessons learned, and the understanding that appearances can be deceiving. The beautiful truth was that beneath the old shoes lay a heart full of dreams, waiting for the chance to shine. And that's exactly what happened. Together, they carved out a space where everyone was free to express themselves, to dream, and to rise up together. As Jake's music lingered in the air, Sarah knew one undeniable truth. Sometimes it takes a pair of old shoes and a silver key to unlock not just a door, but the limitless potential within us all. It happened in a crowded city park under a bright autumn sky where laughter floated like leaves in the wind. Sarah was with her friends, enjoying a carefree afternoon when she spotted him, a young man sitting alone on a bench, absorbed in his thoughts. But it wasn't his pensive expression that caught her eye, it was his shoes. She exclaimed, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. Her words hung in the air, provoking a wave of giggles from her friends. Seriously. One friend chimed in, laughter spilling out uncontrollably. But as they laughed, the young man, whose name was Ethan, kept his gaze fixed ahead. And while he offered a faint smile inside, he felt a flicker of hurt. Those shoes were more than just an accessory. They were a part of his story, a story filled with both struggles and hope. Ethan had worn those sneakers through countless challenges, each scratch and scuff representing battles fought and lessons learned. He was an aspiring musician trying to make his mark, pouring every ounce of himself into his art. Yet the world often judged him by appearances, and today was no different. As Sarah and her friends continued their laughter, Ethan shifted uncomfortably but remained silent, absorbing the crushing weight of mockery. He wished he could tell them that those shoes had danced in empty rooms while he strummed his guitar, dreaming of bigger stages. But today he was just a target for amusement. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. An older man stepped into the scene, dressed sharply in a well-tailored suit that stood in stark contrast to Ethan's worn attire. The man's presence brought an air of significance. Ethan looked up, surprised, as the suited man walked toward him with purpose. The man said, and Ethan nodded slowly, puzzled. "I'm Mr. Lawson," he introduced himself. With nimble fingers, Mr. Lawson reached into his pocket and unveiled a sparkling silver key. It caught the sunlight, glistening with promise. Sarah and her friends stopped laughing, their attention now locked onto the unfolding moment. Ethan asked, astonished. "This key opens the door to your family's old music venue," Mr. Lawson explained, a smile illuminating his face. The laughter faded into an echo, replaced by stunned silence. Ethan's heart raced as hope surged within him. The old shoes, once a symbol of struggle, were now witnesses to an opportunity he had almost long forgotten. He asked, disbelief flooding his voice. "Yes," Mr. Lawson replied confidently. "You've got the passion, Ethan." Ethan took the key, feeling the weight of it in his hand, a physical embodiment of potential. In that moment, he turned to Sarah, who now looked wide-eyed, her earlier contempt melting away. She said softly, stepping closer, trepidation replacing her mockery. She ventured, her tone laced with curiosity. "Yes," Ethan exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. Sarah's heart sank as understanding dawned on her. She felt a wave of guilt wash over her like an incoming tide. The laughter from earlier now felt cruel, hollow. Those old shoes weren't a mark of failure, they were a badge of resilience. A sudden urge to make amends overwhelmed her. She blurted out, surprising herself and everyone around. Ethan's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "You want to help?" "Yes, I mean, this is incredible." Sarah's voice carried newfound passion. Ethan nodded slowly, still processing the turn of events. And just like that, an unexpected bond began to form. In the weeks that unfolded, Sarah and Ethan collaborated tirelessly, weaving dreams into reality. From sunup to sundown, they transformed the empty venue, once forgotten and supposed to be lost, into a vibrant hub for creativity. With every brushstroke, every nail hammered, they breathed life back into the space. Together, they painted walls in bright colors, hung fairy lights to set a warm mood, and placed vintage furniture to create cozy nooks. The once neglected venue was stretching and awakening like a sleeping giant. As they worked, that initial awkwardness faded away, replaced by laughter and camaraderie. They spent late nights brainstorming ideas, sharing their hopes and fears. Ethan opened up to her about the struggles he faced chasing his dream, struggles Sarah had never considered before. "Those shoes remind me every day of where I started," he said one afternoon, looking fondly down at his scuffed sneakers. "They've seen great moments and hard times." Sarah absorbed his words, her previous judgments vanishing into thin air. She realized those shoes held a deeper meaning, symbols of perseverance rather than embarrassment. They were a testament to a young man fighting for his dreams, one step at a time. Life continued to toss challenges their way. Just when they felt momentum building, disaster struck when a severe storm hit the city, causing a flood that wrecked part of their hard work. As they stood in the rain-soaked venue, a sinking feeling settled in Sarah's stomach, doubt seeped into her heart. She voiced, panic creeping into her voice. Ethan took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. "We fix it, we're not giving up." His resolve fired a flicker of hope within her. "Yes, we've come too far to turn back," he insisted. "There's a community behind us." Together they sent messages to their friends, and word spread like wildfire. Within hours, a crowd gathered at the venue, ready to pitch in. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers rolled up their sleeves, diving into the messy work of restoration. Laughter mingled with determination, reminding Sarah that they weren't just building a venue, they were building a community. Amid the chaos, Sarah began to feel a renewed sense of faith. She saw people join forces, united in their desire to see the venue flourish. Their spirits lifted even as they faced challenges head-on. With every drop of paint and every laugh shared, they strengthened the bond of hope. Finally, after countless hours spent working late into the night, the venue dried out and revealed the promise of what it could be. The grand opening loomed on the horizon, a day they had dreamed about since the moment Ethan had received the silver key. The day arrived, charged with excitement, tension, and the energy of anticipation. The venue buzzed with life, welcoming artists, musicians, and a crowd ready to celebrate new beginnings. The walls, once bare, now adorned with art and photographs, captured memories they hadn't even created yet. As Sarah stood in the back, looking out over the crowd, Ethan took the stage. His heart raced as he picked up his guitar, fingertips brushing against the strings. He shouted, gratitude swelling within him. Applause erupted, drowning out his nerves. As he began to play, a familiar warmth wrapped around Sarah's heart. The music filled the venue, artfully capturing what it meant to struggle and rise again. Ethan's fingers danced over the strings, and for the first time his music translated into an outpouring of emotion, stories of pain, victory, and the beauty of new beginnings. As his voice soared, Sarah felt tears well in her eyes. The journey had been filled with ups and downs, yet here they were, witnessing something extraordinary. In the rhythm of the music, she felt a powerful connection, one that transcended their past misunderstandings. When Ethan finished, the crowd erupted into cheers and he stepped down, the glow of accomplishment mingling with joy on his face. "Thank you all for believing in this place," he cried, looking directly at Sarah. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You had the passion and the dream." She replied, a sense of joy wrapping around them both. As the night wore on, surrounded by friends and laughter, Sarah knew they had created something beautiful together. The venue became a haven for budding artists, musicians, and dreamers, a place where everyone was welcomed. Reflecting on the journey, she realized how easy it had been to judge others based on their appearance. But Ethan had shown her that the most significant transformations often hide beneath the surface. Those old shoes had once been the subject of laughter, yet they had led her to something profound, to connections that ran deeper than she had ever imagined. Standing beside Ethan, she understood the true power of empathy and growth. It takes courage to step beyond our preconceived notions and open ourselves to the stories of others. Together, they built a sanctuary where creativity flowed and dreams took flight. And as the last notes of music filled the air, Sarah turned to Ethan. "You were right," she said softly. In that stunning moment, under the glow of the venue lights, they both knew they had found something far richer than expected: friendship, purpose, and the beauty of dreams fulfilled through understanding and community. The journey ahead was uncertain, but they were ready to dance in those old shoes together, every step a testament to hope. It was a crisp autumn day when Sarah strolled through the city park, laughter echoing in the air, light-hearted and carefree. That was until she spotted him, a young man sitting on a bench, staring off into the distance, but what really drew her attention was his footwear. Sarah exclaimed, her voice dripping with mockery. The sun was shining, casting a perfect glow on her face, and her friends glanced over, giggling in response. "Seriously," a friend chimed in, and the laughter spiraled around them like a tornado. The young man, named Jake, glanced up briefly, an amused smile briefly flashing across his face before he returned to his thoughts. He had heard it all before: the snickers, the whispers. Those shoes were more than just old. They were part of his journey, a journey marked with ups and downs, resilience and hope. While Sarah continued to tease, Jake's mind drifted to the music he loved, the melodies that danced like fireflies in the dark corners of his mind. He dreamed of bigger stages, but felt tethered, like those old shoes grounded him in a reality he wanted to escape. Just then, everything changed. An older man, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that contrasted starkly with Jake's worn attire, approached. There was an authority in the man's stride, a seriousness that drew Jake's attention. He said, the crowd's laughter fading into a hush. Jake replied, both curious and apprehensive. "I'm Mr. Thompson," the man introduced himself, and Jake's eyes widened in recognition. Mr. Thompson was known in the local music scene as a talent scout, someone who could change a young artist's life with a single opportunity. "I have something special for you today," Mr. Thompson continued, reaching into his pocket. The world around seemed to fade away as he pulled out a shimmering silver key. It sparkled in the sunlight, glimmering with potential. Jake asked, barely able to believe it. "This key opens the door to the old music venue downtown," Mr. Thompson explained, his eyes fixed on Jake. "It's been closed for years, but I believe it should belong to someone who understands its value." Time seemed to halt. The crowd around them was a blur as Jake's heart raced. The laughter, the ridicule, all of it faded away, leaving only a singular focus. The old shoes, once an object of scorn, now felt like a badge of honor, a token of the journey he had embarked upon. Jake's voice cracked with disbelief. "Absolutely, you have the talent, and it's time to reclaim what's yours," Mr. Thompson said, placing the key firmly into Jake's palm. Sarah stood there, her heart racing. She felt a mix of emotions, confusion, and guilt tangled together like vines in a forgotten garden. She murmured, stepping closer to grasp the gravity of the moment. She asked hesitantly, the disbelief creeping into her voice, "Yes." Jake exclaimed, excitement bubbling like a fountain pressed for air. Sarah's heart sank as realization hit her. The laughter and snickers she had shared earlier felt like bricks in her gut, heavy with regret. Those old shoes represented more than she had ever known. They were a testament to a life lived, dreams pursued despite hardships. Without thinking, the words slipped from her lips. Jake looked surprised, hope flickering in his eyes. "Really? Yes." "I mean, this is amazing," she insisted, feeling an unexpected thrill rush through her. "Okay," Jake said slowly, absorbing her enthusiasm. And so began a partnership neither of them had expected. In the weeks that followed, they transformed the neglected venue into something bustling with life and energy. Brushstrokes of color blossomed on the walls, and the air filled with a fervent sense of possibility. Their evenings were filled with brainstorming sessions, planning how to breathe new life into the space. Sarah had a knack for attracting attention, reaching out to local musicians and artists. Laughter poured from their meetings, intertwining with fervor and determination. Jake shared stories that now felt lighter on his heart. He talked about how those shoes had carried him through tough times, the moments of doubt and despair. "Every scratch tells a story," he explained one day, looking down at his sneakers. As Sarah listened, her perspective shifted. She realized that his shoes weren't just an object of mockery. They were a symbol of endurance and a reminder that dreams are often built on the foundations of struggle. But life wasn't finished throwing obstacles their way. Just when it seemed like everything was coming together, disaster struck. A massive storm rolled into town one night, pouring rain that flooded the venue, threatening to undo all the hard work they had put in. When they arrived the next morning, muddy water soaked through the floor and everything they had built felt vulnerable. Panic nestled in Sarah's chest as she surveyed the damage. She whispered, her voice trembling. Jake stood firmly, determination etched on his face. "We fix it. We don't give up now. We've come too far," he urged, his confidence igniting a spark in her. She lamented, her heart heavy with fear. "It is enough. This venue means something to us and to the community. We need to rally our friends and family. Let's do this together," he reassured her. And they did. They reached out for help, using social media to spread the word. Messages flew and soon a crowd began to gather. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers rolled up their sleeves, ready to dig in. Laughter and chatter filled the air, and for a moment the fear began to fade. Sarah watched as people came together, united by a shared vision. As they cleaned up the mess, she realized how fortunate they were to have a community that cared. They weren't just restoring a venue, they were strengthening connections, the real essence of building something meaningful. As weeks passed and the venue slowly reclaimed its soul, the grand opening day arrived. The air buzzed with excitement, anticipation thickening like a fog. Sarah, standing behind the counter adorned with fresh flowers, felt a rush of pride as people began to trickle in. Jake stood backstage, his heart racing as he prepared to take the stage. The shimmering silver key hung around his neck, a constant reminder of the journey they had undertaken together. As he stepped onto the stage, everyone fell silent. The spotlight bathed him in a warm glow, every face in the crowd focused on him. He strummed his guitar, the familiar chords resonating in the air. "This is for all of you," he proclaimed, voice steady yet filled with emotion. The first notes danced in the air, wrapping around them like an embrace. Jake poured his heart into every chord, every lyric. The music echoed the struggles and triumphs he had faced, the journey that brought him to this moment. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as she watched Jake perform. He was alive with passion and energy, the embodiment of dreams realized. Laughter and cheers filled the venue, a testament to the journey they had embarked on together. When the song ended, the crowd erupted in applause, a thunderous roar of appreciation swirling around him. Jake beamed, joy radiating from his every pore. He stepped down from the stage and enveloped Sarah in a hug. He exclaimed, breathless from excitement. Sarah replied, her heart swelling with joy for what they had accomplished. In the aftermath of the concert, they celebrated with friends, strangers, and shared smiles. The venue had become a home for aspiring artists, a space where creativity flourished and dreams came alive. Reflecting on everything that had happened, Sarah marveled at the transformation not just of the venue, but of herself. She had grown in ways she never expected, learning the power of compassion and understanding. That initial moment of mockery had ignited a fire of connection between her and Jake, a bond forged through shared struggles. As the crowd continued to celebrate, Sarah glanced at Jake, who was talking excitedly to a group of young musicians. He still wore those old shoes, and she smiled, realizing they had become symbols of hope that transcended appearances, showing that true worth lies beneath the surface. In that vibrant space filled with laughter and music, Sarah understood the deeper lesson that had unfolded. Sometimes it takes a pair of old shoes and a silver key to unlock the potential within us all. Journey, once marked by mockery, had transformed into a celebration of resilience, dreams, and friendship. And as the night drew to a close, she knew this was just the beginning. Together, they would continue to build, to inspire, and to create a space where every dreamer could find a voice, just like Jake had found his. The path ahead was bright, illuminated by the bonds they had carved from understanding and empathy. Their story, intertwined like melodies, would echo in the hearts of many for years to come. It all began on an ordinary Thursday afternoon in the heart of the city, where the vibrant energy of the streets danced with possibility. Sarah was enjoying a sunny day with her friends when something caught her eye, a young man sitting alone on a park bench. The juxtaposition was striking, the bustling crowd contrasted starkly with his stillness. She exclaimed, laughter bubbling in her throat. The words rolled off her tongue without a second thought, her friends glancing over with raised eyebrows. Seriously. One friend chortled, and soon their laughter filled the air like a pop song on repeat. And there he sat, Jake lost in his thoughts, seemingly unfazed by the giggles. He offered a small, shy smile but didn't look up. For Jake, those shoes were his constant companions through thick and thin. They had walked with him through dreams and despair, worn down by the weight of his struggles. He loved music more than anything, pouring his heart into melodies only he could hear. But today, as Sarah and her friends laughed, that love felt overshadowed by judgment. Though he tried to brush off the laughter, a pang of hurt shot through him. The light-hearted mockery stung, reminding him of how the world saw him, a dreamer limited by his appearance. Just then, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. A sharply dressed man approached, his confident stride drawing attention away from the banter. He wore a crisp suit that seemed almost too grand for the park. His shoes sparkled as he walked toward Jake with purpose. Intrigued and confused, Sarah squinted, curiosity piqued. The man asked, his voice steady and unyielding. Jake looked up, eyes wide with surprise. "I'm Mr. Thompson," the man said, his tone warm yet commanding. He produced a gleaming silver key from his pocket, holding it up like a trophy under the sun. Time seemed to stand still. Suddenly, the laughter faded into the background, replaced by an air of disbelief and wonder. Sarah and her friends exchanged glances, their amusement extinguished as they centered their thoughts on this unexpected interaction. Jake stammered, just as bewildered as the crowd forming around them. "This key opens the door to your family's old music venue," Mr. Thompson explained, a smile illuminating his face. Jake's voice cracked, disbelief echoing in his chest. "Absolutely, I've seen your talent. It's time to bring the venue back to life," Mr. Thompson said, placing the key into Jake's trembling hand. The world around them faded into a blur as joy surged within Jake. The old shoes, once an object of scorn, transformed into symbols of hope, resilience, and newfound opportunity. Sarah felt a wave of guilt crash over her, forcing her to confront the misunderstanding that had clouded her judgment moments before. She blurted out, driven by an unexpected urge to redeem herself. Jake turned to her, surprise flickering across his features. "Absolutely, I mean, this is amazing." Sarah's sincerity spilled out, much to her own astonishment. Jake's hesitation morphed into understanding. "All right, let's do this together," he said, a smile dawning on his face that lit up the dim shadows of doubt. And so began an unlikely partnership that neither of them had anticipated. Over the following weeks, they worked side by side, rejuvenating the neglected venue. Each day brought fresh inspiration as paint splattered on the walls, laughter floated through the air, and the venue's vibe changed from dormant to vibrant. As they scrubbed, nailed, and painted, Sarah learned more about Jake's past, the struggles he faced, and the dreams he held close. He opened up about losing his parents young and how music was his escape, a way to cope with the loneliness. Those shoes, once an embarrassment to him, became a testament to his journey. "Every scuff tells a part of my story," Jake said one evening, glancing down at the worn fabric. In that moment, Sarah understood those shoes weren't just about fashion, they were symbols of fortitude. As she worked alongside Jake, her perceptions shifted. She began to appreciate the deeper struggles that everyone carries, often invisible to the outside world. But just as they started to find their rhythm and excitement for the venue was rising, life decided to throw them a curveball. A sudden storm swept through the city one night, a tempest that turned their hard work into a flood of despair. The morning after, Sarah and Jake stood in shock as they surveyed the damaged water pooling in the corners, walls soaked, and everything they had worked for threatened to wash away. Sarah whispered, panic lacing her voice. Jake, typically calm and collected, felt his heart race. "We need to fix this, we can't give up now." Sarah's heart sank. He met her gaze, determination in his eyes. "Every bit helps and we have to try. This place means something to so many people." With renewed energy, they sent out messages on social media, and soon the news spread. A few hours later, a small army of friends, family, and even strangers arrived, ready to lend a hand. Laughter intertwined with determination as they worked together, scrubbing away the remnants of the storm. As they dug in, Sarah felt the power of community lift her spirits. Step by step, they rebuilt what the storm had tried to take away. The shared experience knit them together, reinforcing the notion that they were all part of something greater. The venue was a shared dream, and dreams flourish with support. Days turned into weeks, and they managed to restore the venue to its former glory. Each brushstroke and nail hammered was a testament to hard work and unity. The grand opening day finally loomed on the horizon, filled with promise. As the sun began to set on that highly anticipated day, vibrant colors painted the evening sky. Sarah stood outside the venue, anticipation bubbling within her. Seeing people arrive, cheering and celebrating, brought a swell of happiness to her heart. Jake, standing backstage, felt the adrenaline coursing through him. The silver key hung around his neck, a reminder of his journey, one that had taken shape from the laughter of others to this moment of triumph. He embraced the stage, aware that what lay ahead was not merely an opportunity for himself, but for everyone inspired by his path. As he stepped into the spotlight, a hush fell over the crowd. The venue glowed, filled with familiar faces and new friends, a community ready to celebrate what had been reborn. Jake called out, his voice echoing through the air. As he began to play, the first notes resonated in the venue, wrapping around everyone like a warm embrace. Music poured from him, every chord resonating with emotion, a symphony of dreams, struggles, and triumphs experienced through those old shoes. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes as she watched him shine, finally stepping into the spotlight. She felt the atmosphere shift around her, and for the first time she understood the real power of dreams and resilience. But just as the concert took flight, an unexpected burst of chaos rang through the night. A sudden crash echoed from the back of the venue as lights flickered and went out. Panic flickered in the crowd and Sarah's heart raced. She gasped, adrenaline surging through her veins. Jake's eyes widened as he squinted into the darkness. Stay calm. It's going to be okay, he called, even as he felt the uncertainty gnaw at him. But as the crowd murmured nervously, Sarah noticed an ominous figure hidden in the shadows, and dread crawled up her spine. For a brief moment, she thought she saw the glint of a knife, and then everything spiraled into chaos as the lights flickered back on, revealing the tumultuous scene that no one had dared to predict. What would happen next? Would they be able to face whatever was lurking in the shadows? The climax loomed ahead, leaving them standing on the precipice of uncertainty, woven tightly in their shared journey, a journey that was only just beginning.